Everybody's got different hobbies, different things they like. And you know what? I'm very good at helping people reach their passion. I'll never forget one day there was this one gentleman who was working a marketing position, wasn't exactly happy with the marketing salary he had. He was working in a cubicle, wasn't really unhappy. He wasn't entirely happy, but he wasn't unhappy either. But he felt like he could be doing more. Him being a musician and all, he felt like I can do more. I'm, totally talented. I have a degree from a major university in music. And I looked at his resume and I said, wow, there's something you haven't thought of here. And he takes a look and he sees, okay, you got music, you got a music degree, and you work in marketing. I was like, okay, well, I think you need to take your resume, redo your resume, and apply for one of those online music companies. And he got a job at Spotify, believe it or not. Now, what does that mean exactly? Well, today's episode is From Hobby to Hustle, from hobby to hustle. And I am your host, Mario Leone. Welcome to Voices of Victory channel. From hobby to hustle, how can we actually turn passion into profit? That is what's really important. There's a lot of people that have a lot of passion and they're afraid. They're totally afraid. So this is the podcast where we break down the barriers between having a passion and a fulfilling career. And there's a lot of people that may be afraid. And it brings us to that age-old question of how do you go from your hobby to building a career actually around it? Well, let's think about it. We all have something that really ignites us. It's something that we're passionate about. And something that we can lose ourselves in for hours on end. It could be painting, could be writing poetry, it could be something creative, designing websites. And what tends to happen is some of the artists might be hard on themselves. They say, oh, I love doing it, but I feel like if I charge for it, it's totally going to take away my passion. And that is true for some people. And I think what tends to happen is some people has the starving artist mentality that artists can't make money and you can't do it that way, or that if they monetize it then their passion seems to dwindle because it's become transactional in nature. So it can go either way. It can totally go either way. But whether it's painting, writing poetry, doing something fun, why not turn something into a career, something that can feel fun and enjoyable? And you can, if you're able to see yourself on the other side, if you're able to believe that, hey, listen, I know I can do this, I know I can sell this, and you have to ask the question, is there a underserved market? In other words, is there a market of people out there that need what you have, but they're not served that? And that's where it comes in. So it's a pleasure to be here today. And, I'm so glad to bring this to light with people. Let's begin with the basics because it's one of the biggest hurdles that people have when they're trying to make their hobby into their career. And there are a few things that actually hold people back. First off, of course, the fear of leaving what's familiar. You could be in a job or a company for 12, 13, 14 years, and you got this comfort. You got this emotional stability, and you want to switch gears, but it seems like one big risk. And it's like, I don't know if I could do that. But at the end of the day, you could do it as a side hustle, and you could build it as a side hustle until it slowly becomes the tail that wags the dog. And you can indeed do both. A lot of people have a lot of comfort in their job. People still fall on that idea that, oh, I have to stay with this company for the next 20 years. And that idea kind of died with our parents and died with the generations before. But you have to ask yourself, do people really want this? Is there a market demand for it? Is there an underserved market that's out there? How do you prove that it's actually valuable, right? And we could look at that. We could look at that and figure out a business on the side. But we have to look at the branding, the marketing, the pricing, the whole thing, because it can be very overwhelming. So those are valid concerns, but turning your passion into a career is totally achievable. A lot of people want that. They want that ability to do their own thing. And what you want to understand is that when you do decide to take something like that on, you're going to have some stumbles, you're going to have some hurdles along the way, but those things are going to help you to learn. I think what tends to happen is there are going to be points in time where the business has a little bit of a lull. In other words, you do 6 months of selling, everything is really good, and then all of a sudden there's a little bit of a lull, meaning like you have 1 month that's not so good and you're worried about paying off your bills and your electric and all of the things that are out there. And that tends to get people to be very afraid as well, that there's going to be those slow points and slow moments. And you quite honestly have to build your craft, build your business around those slow moments and be able to save for a rainy day. Because if you don't save for a rainy day, when it does rain, you're going to be without an umbrella. So the most important step really is action, because what action does is it provides you evidence, and evidence gives you confidence. And outside of action, you want to be able to experiment, because when you actually experiment, you gain insights. And when you gain insights, you start to go back and run the experiment again. And each time that you do that, you become mentally stronger and confidence increases. You don't just dream about it. You don't just think about it. You don't just, type notes about it. You have to be able to test the waters, and test the waters with something small. And a lot of people don't like that, because it's like, okay, well, I have to get my branding right. My branding has to be right. But you have to be able to experiment. The branding can be right, but you have to be able to experiment, because if you don't experiment, if you don't take a risk, things aren't going to happen. There's no chance, no change, no change, no chance. If you don't take a chance, nothing will change. So if you offer something for free, that's another problem, because if you offer it free, if you don't see the value in it, it might be really hard for other people to see the value. You could do a free workshop when you actually have a sold product, and that's okay. Then and at that point, you're giving a demonstration, a sales demo, and it's in order to have a sale with it, and that's fine. It is crucial for you to get your foot in the door, and it's also crucial to gather feedback, because you're going to have insights, you're going to form an experiment, and when you get the experiment, you're going to gather feedback, and with that feedback, you're going to go back to collecting more insights, but this time it's going to be different. You have feedback to base on the next experiment. The next experiment will go. So that's the whole thing. It goes from the insights to the experiment to the actual feedback that you're getting. So here's the thing. The things that you can do really to help you out today, it's an important step to take some action. You don't want to just dream. You don't want to do that at all. Research your market. Don't spend forever. Don't just assume there's a huge demand. Look for the underserved market. You have to make sure that there's a demand for your passion. Is there an audience? What's the competition like? How can you differentiate that? Are people actively seeking what you have to offer? Are you able to network with people? Are you able to build connections? Do you have someone that can help you do that if you can't? Can you reach out to other creators? Can you get a pulse for that industry? Can you do some marketing research? Can you find a potential customer or maybe a mentor in your niche? Can you engage people online? Can you connect with those people that share your passion as well? Is there a community of a bunch of people doing the same thing as you are? Can you craft your brand, even if you haven't really launched a full-blown brand right away? Can you build your online presence? Create a website or a blog showcasing what you actually do. A lot of it's very valuable advice. So I just want to thank you so much for joining us today. It is my pleasure. Don't forget to keep your passion really burning bright. Remember, you can turn your hobby into a career. It doesn't have to be a sprint, although you can test it out. Be patient, but be persistent. And don't be afraid to ask for help. We'll catch you on the next one. Leap into your future. This is Mario Leone from the Voices of Victory. Have a great day.